Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am honestly so excited to get into this material today because we are going to tackle a massive misconception in the world of money. Culture constantly hands us this vague, traditional advice to just be patient and hold on for the long run. Just wait, right? But as we're going to see, patience without an actual system is really just a delay. So today we're going to break down how to stop just waiting around and how to start actively building your wealth.
Society often gives us this totally false choice between two massive traps. On one side, you've got reckless, hyper-fast gambling, and on the other, just doing absolutely nothing. It's kind of like a pendulum, swinging from extreme chaotic action to extreme inaction. And honestly, no surprise here, neither of these extremes is actually going to serve your financial goals.
All right, Section 1, the two wealth traps, and how extremes destroy your capital. Let's look at exactly how these two dangerous extremes do their damage, starting with the fast lane to being completely broke.
We've all heard stories exactly like this one. There's this crazy anecdote from a Reddit user named Jaunty Turtle. They talked about how several of their coworkers literally lost everything chasing dirt cheap crypto coins. They fully expected to retire by 40, but ended up with zero when the bottom fell out. When people try to find an impossible sum of money in an impossibly short amount of time, it's essentially gambling. And let me tell you, it almost always leads straight to ruin.
But on the flip side, and this is exactly where conventional advice completely fails us, the silent wealth killer of simply doing nothing is inflation. With annual inflation sitting around 3.2%, leaving your money totally idle actively destroys your purchasing power. I mean, think about it. If you have $100,000 just sitting there, it's losing over $3,000 in buying power every single year while you just wait. Delaying decisions might give you a cozy illusion of safety, but inaction has a very real compounding cost.
Which brings us to Section 2, the myth of passivity, and why Wall Street actually wants you to wait. We really need to unpack why that vague advice to just be patient is fundamentally incomplete.
See, when you just passively wait, you fall prey to something behavioral economists call the disposition effect. You end up sitting on your losses, blindly hoping they bounce back, and at the same time you sell your winners way too soon. I mean, pure logic says you should stick with what's working and drop what isn't, right? But human emotion drives us to do the exact opposite. We hold on to our losers because traditional advice has drilled into our heads that if we just wait long enough, it'll all magically work out.
This dynamic is wild, but believe it or not, Wall Street actually loves passive minnows. A minnow just kind of floats along, totally dependent on financial advisors and expensive mutual funds, blindly paying fees year after year, just hoping the market goes up. But what you really want is to be an empowered shark. The author of Invest Like a Shark hits the nail on the head here. Big institutions do not want aggressive, self-sufficient sharks making waves. They want passive minnows.
So, Section 3, redefining active patience. Because patience isn't a plan, action is. Let's talk about the third way out of this trap.
The massive paradigm shift here is moving to what we call active patience. It totally separates just passively waiting around from taking consistent, compounding, and systematic action over time. Being patient doesn't mean you just sit on your hands and close your eyes. No way. It means you are constantly plotting strategy, managing risk, and conserving your capital so you can wait for the exact right moment to strike. Yes, you're waiting, but you are waiting actively.
So how do the pros do it? Well, looking at the framework used by Baird Asset Management, true active management requires really deep, continuous due diligence. It's a nonstop process of screening, portfolio analysis, and evaluation. It's absolutely not about treating the stock market like a slot machine in Vegas where you just pull the lever and cross your fingers. It requires you to be fiercely engaged with your money. Which leads perfectly into Section 4, building your investment system, and really harnessing that shark approach. Let's see how you can actually construct a personal money management framework based on this active mindset.
Having a true system is what actually empowers you. Consider these core shark investing rules. The absolute, undeniable highest priority is rule number 1, protect capital above all. Because without capital, you're entirely out of the game. So you have to cut losses quickly instead of letting emotional hope drag down your portfolio. Seriously, think of selling as a form of insurance. Plus, Rule 5, using partial buys and sells, means you aren't trying to perfectly time the market. Because, let's be real, you can't. Instead, you average in and average out to smooth over the inevitable errors and stay in complete control.
And the reason you absolutely need this systematic control becomes glaringly obvious as you approach retirement.
If you don't have a system, you expose yourself to something called sequence of returns risk. Just imagine this. You retire, you're planning to draw down $80,000 a year, and bam, you immediately hit a massive market crash. Because you have no system, you are forced to sell your investments at a huge loss just to pay for groceries. This sequence can permanently deplete your entire portfolio.
To actively combat this massive risk, really successful financial planners use a systematic approach called the bucket strategy. This is exactly how you shield your hard-earned money and totally neutralize that sequence of returns risk.
By actively separating your money into these 3 specific buckets, you put yourself firmly in the driver's seat. So, you keep your short-term liquid cash in bucket 1. You keep modest growth assets, maybe some CDs, in bucket 2. And your long-term growth equities, those sit safely in bucket 3. Now, if the stock market crashes, you don't panic. You don't have to sell your long-term stocks at a brutal loss because you are actively drawing your living expenses from your short-term cash bucket. You've built a system that allows you to be patient with your stocks, precisely because you took active steps to protect your cash flow. That is active patience in action.
Section 5. Measuring your true success. Are you tracking your actions or just the market? Let's figure out how to measure if your system is actually working.
Now, this is a massive distinction that ShareSite points out, and it is honestly an unbelievable blind spot for most people. There are basically 2 ways to measure returns. Time-weighted returns, or TWR, just measure the background noise of the market. It completely ignores when you actually put cash in or pull it out. But money-weighted returns, or MWR, that measures your actual performance. It actually takes into account the timing and the size of your deposits and your withdrawals.
Let me give you a mind-blowing example of how this works in practice. Let's say you bought $1,000 of a stock, then you bought $2,000 more when the price doubled, and then you just panic sold everything when it dipped. Because of your bad timing, you actually lost $500, resulting in a money-weighted return of negative 12.77%. But get this, the time-weighted return for that exact same period is a positive 11.80%. A passive metric will literally trick you into thinking your portfolio grew, while in reality your actual personal wealth shrank. You absolutely must track your own active decisions, not just the passive movement of the market.
So as we wrap up this explainer, the really crucial takeaway you need to ask yourself today is this. Are you a minnow, passively waiting for the current to carry you, just hoping the market magically delivers you to your retirement goals? Or are you a shark, utilizing a system, controlling your capital, and actively building your future? Remember, patience is a virtue, for sure, but it is absolutely not a plan. Thanks so much for exploring this topic with me, and I challenge you to start taking systematic action today.